One of my favorite passages that I've set to memory in Scripture, and there's not a lot of them. I should probably have more set to memory, but is this last one from the 10th chapter of John that we read today. In fact, it's verse 10 in chapter 10. I came that they might have life and have it abundantly. It's a prayer that I often use and pray when I'm reflecting after receiving Holy Communion. It's a prayer that comes to my mind very easily and to my heart. And I think that's the advantage that we have when we can memorize just a few passages from Scripture, because it allows us to take it from our head and to our heart, to let it sink in there. And this passage is one that's worth memorizing, worth living, and one that helps us to understand this entire chapter of John's Gospel. This and what we call Good Shepherd Sunday, because the fourth Sunday of the fourth Sunday of Easter every year, we're called to reflect on Jesus as a good shepherd. What we need to hear in this, first and foremost, I believe, is when Jesus says that I have come that you may have life, that you may have life in abundance. It's good to understand that Jesus does not come to rob us. Jesus does not come to take things away from us. Maybe those things that are obstacles to following him, to loving him, yes. But sometimes people today are afraid to know Christ, to follow Christ, and to love Christ, because they feel that there's a compromise that has to be made. If I follow Christ, if I listen to his voice, God just might take away something that I value. He might take away my freedom. He might take away the happiness. He might take away those things that I really like in life. What Jesus is saying today in this scripture and throughout his teachings, in the entirety of his life, is that no, I have come that you may have life. Whatever you may be called to give up, to let go of, there is something even more that I have promised to give you, to fill you with. And so what Jesus is saying today is that it is through him, it is in him, as the Good Shepherd, that we find the fullness of life. And Jesus is speaking about this relationship that he has as shepherd and we as a sheep, is one that's a connection, there's a compassion, there's an intimacy that we're called to. He knows us by name. He calls us by name. And it says that the sheep recognize his voice and follow him. Once again, that sense of intimacy, that sense of trust. And maybe that's where we get caught up in our world today, is that if there's not that intimacy, if there's not that knowledge of the one, awareness of his love in our lives, how in the world can we follow someone? How in the world can we give our lives? How in the world can we place our trust in another if there isn't that intimacy, if there isn't that knowledge, if there isn't that opportunity to enter into that deeper relationship? This image that he uses is one that the people of everyday life in Palestine, they understood. Maybe in our own life, not so well. We see these beautiful pictures of art, don't we? Jesus is a good shepherd. Jesus that picks up that sheep that was lost and carries it back. But here's a point of reflection about the real life of sheep and shepherds. Have you ever seen sheep and really seen sheep? They're not so cute. They're not so clean as they appear in pictures. They're filthy. They are. I mean, their fur, their wool attracts everything, all the dust, all the dirt, the droppings that they sleep in. Everything is in them. They're absolutely filthy. And think about that image from that point of view. Picking up that cute little sheep that really stinks, is filthy. That could be us. That could be us in our waywardness. That could be us when we have gone astray. When we sometimes get caught up into whatever it may be in life. That doesn't matter to the Good Shepherd. It doesn't matter to Jesus. He picks us up in love and carries us back. Maybe the connection I'd like to make with that is we don't have to be perfect. We don't have to be perfect to be guided by Christ. We don't have to have everything in order. We don't need to be clean to be brought back to the fold, for Jesus to find us. Somehow we have this idea that in coming to church that I've got it all figured out, everything is good. That's the wrong idea. We don't even have to be halfway perfect. Look at me. I'm far from it. Don't laugh. Don't agree too quickly, okay? But that's why we're here, because we need that good shepherd that brings us back, that carries us on his shoulders when we're not able to find our way back. For those times that we've made decisions that take us away from the Lord. For those times that we've been maybe just lazy and not even doing our part to even try to listen. He doesn't wait for us to get it right, but he goes looking for us. He brings us back. And that's why we're here every Sunday. To be fed by his word. To learn to listen to his voice once again, speaking to us in Scripture. To be fed in his body and his blood. And that's the other aspect of this image that I like so much. It's not only that Jesus seeks us out when we're lost, but it's also the point of a shepherd is to call the sheep, to lead them where? What's the point of the shepherd? To lead them to the pastures, to lead them to water, places where they can be fed, places where they can grow, so that they can mature. And that's an important aspect of our faith that we sometimes forget. That we are called by the Good Shepherd to be fed by him so that we can continue to grow, as Scripture says, in the stature of Christ, to grow more and more in that likeness of Christ, showing his love, his compassion, his truth to the world. That entails a following. That entails a growing. That entails a daily listening. Listening to where the voice of the Good Shepherd is speaking. Speaking in our prayer life. Speaking when we open Scripture and reflect and pray with it. Speaking in the teachings of the church. Speaking in our voice, in that conscience that is well formed. That helps us to understand the decisions that we make and to align them with the life of the Good Shepherd. Those are there's many, many more ways, but that we dedicate ourselves every Sunday, every Lord's Day, to be gathered by the Good Shepherd and then sent. To be sent to go off, to be missionaries, to be his disciples, to go bring that message of his love to others. As I began, there's something inside of us, and there's something inside of so many of us, of others in our world, that don't want to take that first step in approaching the Good Shepherd. Let's reflect upon it. What might it be in your life this week? And what might it be in somebody that you meet this coming week? What might be their fear? What might be their hesitation? And is there a way through our words, our actions, our example of faith, our example of hope and joy, that we can help to see that the Good Shepherd is not one to be feared, but one that invites us into his everlasting life, one that goes and searches for us when we're lost. Let us turn once again to the Good Shepherd. Let us learn and practice listening to his voice this week. And also on this Good Shepherd Sunday, as I've been talking about for the past couple of weekends, this is a weekend where we do our commitments for a Catholic Services appeal. This is the annual appeal for all of the ministries and administration for our Diocese of Grand Rapids. So I'd like you just to take a moment, for those of you sitting along the edges of the pews, if you can, so very kindly just pass some of that information to those that are into the center of the pews. Those of you that are parishioners have already received a letter from Bishop Okowiak inviting you and all of us into making, again, our annual commitment to these ministries that help us together as a church, that help us together to be that presence of Christ in our world. No one Catholic, no one Christian, no one parish can meet all the needs that are out there in our cities and in our diocese. We need to come together as a diocesan church, united by our pastor, Bishop Olkowiak, under the Good Shepherd, to continue to reach out and to be that presence of Christ to many in so many ways. And so this is the purpose of our Catholic Services Appeal. And so this year our goal is $147,000 plus. And $20,000 of it will go to an extra project that we have, the project to renew the controls or replace the controls of our lightings here. And as you know, the lights that we use here in church are not like the lights we use in our dining room. It takes a little different set of controls to make it happen. In the next weekend's bulletin, some people have been questioning, why is that so expensive? We'll have some more information explaining that a little bit. So that's this year's project, and I know like last year when we helped to redo the bell tower, all of us together can truly make that happen. Thankful to everyone's generosity. So just the nuts and bolts of it is just, once again, if you're ready to make your commitment for this annual campaign for our diocese and for our parish, please deposit it in the collection that will take place at its normal time. If you need more time to think about it, to pray about it, please take that home with you and return it at your convenience in the next few weeks. So once again, thank you for your generosity and all that you do for our parish and for our diocesan church.